Hey everybody, Randy and Matt here in the Eastwood Garage, live on Facebook and YouTube. Today we're going to show you how to fab some floor pans with our popular hand crank bead roller as well as our motorized bead roller. We're going to be using the Perfect Panel prep tool, the punch side of it. We're going to be showing you some copper magnets, our panel holding system, commonly known as Clecos, and which is actually the daily deal today. Joe, if you can get in and get a shot of these maybe, so if everybody knows what they are. And yeah, that's our daily deal. So if you go to eastwood.com, it's today only. So if you're watching this live or recorded today, go check it out. We got a great sale on them. I can show you how they work quickly before I turn it over to Matt and get started making these floor pans. So well, we already got these on. So this one's already connected. Okay. So as you can see, start off like this. They have these little grabbers there. So you connect the tool. Can you see this? Should I be up against something white?
Yeah, right there.
Closer? Right there? All right. So as you go like that, they come up and get smaller. So we have a hole here. Put it through. So you push it, put it through. And as you can see, as I let off, they pull back. And they stay wide here on this side of the panel, and that's going to hold them in place. But for a tip, just make sure when you put them in, you draw, like these are 1/8 inch, and that means you're going to need to drill an 1/8 inch hole. If you drill a hole that's bigger, they're going to get some play. And I believe we also sell 3/16. So today we're going to show you how to use these in the process of building a floor pan. So Matt, should we get started here?
Yeah, so we're just going to do a simple floor pan. We're going to do two different ones, just kind of a sample on some square pieces here. Show you guys the basic process, and if you're trying to attack building floor pans for your vehicle, this is kind of the basic steps that you could do when you're building them. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the hand crank bead roller. We'll show you the kind of tried and true method here. So we've already drawn just two diagonal lines here on the panel. We're going to roll just a standard bead in the piece. We're going to show you how to do that, and then we'll switch the dies after we roll these two panels.
And we'll flange the edges.
Yep.
Right now we got the bead rolling dies in, and then we'll switch over to a set of flanging dies like this, and then we'll show you how to roll a flange inside of it so your sheet metal lays in good.
So I got this piece in. Of course, we're not starting all the way on the edge. I had to loosen the panel, slide it in, and then we will tighten this bolt up to the top. You can either do it in a few passes, depending on what you're doing. You may need to do a few passes. Since we're doing a pretty short one.
You're almost at 2. Are you keeping track, or are you going to keep track when you let off?
When I come off, I think we'll keep track here. But got pretty good tension on it. So, especially because we're diagonal, we can't even use a guide here, so I'm just going to use the good old eyeball here.
Ready?
All right, yep.
Make sure I'm going the right way.
Yep, you're good. All right, so I'm just trying to keep my eye on the center. These dies are a little worn, which is good, because the heat treating in the center is kind of, the black from it is worn off a little bit. So I can kind of just use that as a line, the eyeball. I like to do the pirate squint. For whatever reason, in my brain it makes me think it works better. Keep going. But whatever works for you, keep it straight. Keep going, a little more, a little more, a little more. Going, right there. All right, so as Randy was kind of hinting about, if you got to do multiple beads and you want them to look the same, a good thing to do is to count your turns. So you can either mark one side of this bolt here. Some people modify these and put a little
like a T-bar on it.
Yeah, a T-bar on it. Some guys weld a socket on and put a mark on it. But whatever you do, but basically you can just loosen this and count your turns. So go 1, 2. Oops.
Uh-oh,
I lost a track.
I think you're good still.
3, I can count from here. 3, 4, and I think we can slide up there. So I did 4. And if for some reason this next one isn't quite as, the depth isn't quite deep enough, you can always go back and roll your bead again and just tighten it down a little bit at a time as you go, which is completely fine. And if you're doing a real deep draw, that's sometimes, especially an 18 gauge, that's something you may have to do. So we'll do. Let's hope I get this.
And
right.
this does have a 17-inch throat on it, so you can do some. You can do a sheet up that's about 34 inches wide.
Yep.
I didn't throw you off your counting, did you?
No, I think we need to go. I can feel the tension in it, actually. I think we needed to go.
Are you just doing it? You're just using the force?
Yeah, I can feel that.
I can
After you do
feel
it for
it?
a while, you can feel the difference. All right, go ahead. All right, so we're going. Go ahead. So again, I'm just keeping my eye on the center here. No magic method here. I'm going to try and, Randy's pretty good at it because he's done it a bunch, but you try and keep the handle moving, you know, in a
Same
steady
rate.
motion.
You're only as good as your cranker handle, man.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I try to take as much credit as possible, even when it's not warranted.
That's true. A little more.
That's true.
Go a little more. No, you should. You should take as much as you can. All right. So.
Hey, I don't think I let everybody know. If you have any questions, Scotty C's over here. I think I forgot about you today. You're just wearing a very conservative sweater, and it didn't draw my attention. So if you have any questions, Scott will take care of you, or else he'll throw them out to us, and me or Matt will answer them or try to demo it for you. And don't forget to share it.
So. You have a question? For me?
After rolling, strengthening beads on the floor panel, will the metal stretch enough that it won't fit without trimming? And should you make it smaller to allow for stretching?
So there is, in this panel, which is what we're going to show actually, the panel won't, the size of the panel overall isn't going to really change. Now there is some stretching that occurs, there's some movement of the metal, but it's pretty much centralized right around the beads. So this panel here, you can see we have a little bit of warping right around the starts and stops especially. There's some warping there in the panel.
That's a pretty deep bead as well.
Yeah, so I did one full pass at full depth basically, and that's going to cause some of that warping there. Now you can counteract it, but so anyways, before I get off sidetrack, no, I always make the panel bigger than it needs to be. So if this panel, we were bead rolling this, was going to be a patch, I'd probably leave an extra few inches on all sides, as long as it fits in the bead roller, bead roll it, and then we would trim it down to fit. But it's not going to change your overall shape enough to make the panel not fit. Now the warping can be an issue, depending what you're doing. Sometimes you can just fit it in, it's not too bad. This is probably borderline on this side, but if we're trimming it off, it may not be an issue.
But you've got a little tip for that. We've got a video that you did on if it's going to warp ahead of time, you could pre-stretch it with an English wheel.
Yep.
So you just put a little bit of an arc in it to counteract, so when you roll the bead, it becomes flat.
Yeah,
so if you're watching this, if you go to YouTube and just search Eastwood English wheel or probably metal fab, you'll get that tip.
Yeah, so the whole idea is that you're trying to stretch the metal into the piece before, you're putting the metal there before we roll it in the bead roller. So you can do it, I mean, if you guys don't have an English wheel at home, we sell a really affordable one, but if you don't have one, an even more simple method is you can mark out your line and take it in the sandbag with a small hammer, like a Rapus hammer that we sell, and you can hammer in here and actually just carefully hammer and stretch the metal in with that. That's an even more basic way. We have an English wheel, so it's a lot quicker.
So do the other one here?
Yeah, so we'll do this other one, and then we'll switch and flange. I'm going to try and speed it up this time so we're not...
Maybe 3 turns, not as deep this time?
Yeah, we'll try and...
So if you're just joining us, today our daily deals on the panel holding system, which is what we're going to... One of the popular methods is for holding floor pans together. Sorry, I'm moving around on you, Joe. Okay. But to show you, we decided to just basically build some sample floor pans, and we're actually going to use this, the hand crank bead roller, and then Matt's going to do one on the motorized bead roller. So you're going to get to see both of them in action, and you're going to get to see us roll beads. You're going to get to see us do a flange on the side, so your floor pans would lay flat. and we're actually going to drill the holes and weld them with the MIG 175 as well. So you're going to get to see basically a start to finish here, 2 different methods.
Okay. I'm
Ready?
I think, yep. Try and make it straight. So again, if you guys weren't watching, I'm just trying to eyeball the worn area in the center of this die. I'm just trying to keep the center of the bead right in there. Keep it pretty straight. Randy's rolling, nice and steady without stopping too much. A little bit more, a little more, right there. So, made this next bead.
And I've seen some people, if they're not, maybe their eyes aren't good or they prefer it to actually use this edge, they'll actually make the lines and then measure over a little bit and try to eyeball that edge as well. If you're not good at, following the center of that, there are other.
Yeah, really the
things you can
answer
do.
is whatever's
What
easy.
works for you?
Whatever's easiest for you to make to follow your pattern. Like I mentioned in the first one, I squint. For whatever reason, I've always squinted and used my one eye because I don't know why. But for you, some people put the edge on the outside. I like doing the center line because it kind of. I just eyeball the center of the piece here.
Again, if you're joining us, to make sure they're all the same, he just counts the revolutions. So as he goes around here, he'll know it's 3 or 4, whichever, however. So he gets the same depth every time.
All right, I'll do this one. I did too much this time.
Okay, there we go. Is the table moving?
I think I was pushing on the piece a little bit there. And I'm taking this in a full pass. You could probably do this to do this full depth. You could do this in 2 shallower passes. There's nothing wrong with that. But we also have a little bit of a time trying to make this. Keep going. We still got a little more. Keep going. Keep going. More. A little more. More. Right there.
So now we got to swap. We'll swap these out after we get this piece out. We'll swap them out and put in the flange dies.
And for you, when he's swapping that out, for you guys that we had somebody ask about the panel actually changing its shape because of the stretching of the metal. Now, if you have this warping here and you didn't pre-stretch it ahead of time, what you can do is if you have a shrinker, you can go in and shrink around the areas and kind of bring this back so that it's flat. So if you have just our standard shrinker, you can go in and probably get to most of this, but if you have our deep throat shrinker, you can really get in and shrink around these areas and get this thing back to flat. You can see in these areas where we stopped, if I'm reading this right, yep, where we stopped, we have a little more than on this side. So in here we could go in with the shrinker, work around there, shrink it down, get this back flat again, it wouldn't be an issue. But I would usually leave extra on here, so we'd be trimming this down to maybe only, that big. But so that's a little trick. You can shrink this out if you didn't ahead of time. You can shrink it down with the kick shrinker or by hand. So,
And these just, if you're just checking in, we're swapping these out from the bead roller dies to the flange dies, and it's just a couple of Allen bolts. That's all it does. Are we good like that?
yeah, I think so. So I'm gonna
Do we want to tighten this down?
so yeah. A little trick is you can just make it basically. You don't even need to tighten any. You don't need to put any tension on this. You just make it so that the dies are touching from their weight, and just put this tension screw down so that it doesn't allow it to reach.
Because we're starting. The other ones we had to go into the middle of it and
Yes.
roll the bead. Where this one we're starting at the edge.
So we can the thickness, the material thickness will actually be what causes that tension in it. So I'm just going to try and ride. Now this time I'm going to try and follow this
Inside edge.
inside edge as much as I can. All right.
Ready?
Yep. And we're going to put this flange. Joe probably, as we get this, will probably be able to get in and see as it comes out the other side.
Good speed.
Yeah, that's good. Here's somewhere where, depending on the size of your material, you could put a the guide on. We sell a guide for the bead roller, and if you have a nice straight cut edge, you can put the guide on, and we can actually guide this piece to really make sure that
we're staying dead straight.
Yeah, we're staying dead straight. I mean, for the most part, for what we're doing for floor pans, and we're making a kind of a channel for the other piece to sit in, there's a little room for error. But I'm not doing too
And this will do up to 18 gauge.
Yep.
So it'll handle pretty much any kind of sheet metal work you're doing on your car. You did an entire truck bedside.
Yeah, if you guys really want to see the extreme that you can do with a little hand crank bead roller, we did a video a few years ago with my truck where we did a whole entire truck bedside.
Like a 7 or 8 foot piece of.
Yeah, it was about
like
almost
a whole
8 foot.
sheet of steel and about 5 or 6 guys.
Yeah, yeah, it took.
And a whole design.
Yes,
It wasn't like rolling a bead down it.
Yeah, we did a whole design. So if you search, I think custom bed build or something.
Eastwood Project Pile House.
Yeah, that's another.
You'll find it.
So Joe can probably trying to get a. There we go. So you can see there's a step in this pen.
For the other sheet metal to lay in.
So we have.
Hopefully they're flat enough, right? We'll make it work.
So when you clamp this down on here,
You can see now it'll lay.
it'll lay flat in there, and we're gonna drill some holes, and we'll get this all pulled together.
Yeah, now's where you're going to get to see the Clecos and why you need them.
Yeah, so this is a good instance where the panel's a little bit out of shape on this edge, but when we use the Clecos, we can pull it all together, and when you go to spot weld this, you can kind of counteract it a little bit.
Move these out of the way here. These are the ones we're going to use next with the motorized bead roller.
So I'll get these,
Put these
just some clamps.
While he's clamping it,
Yep.
Joe, if you want to see, so for the bead roller, we've got all these other dies over here. We sell like 6 set, well, it comes with 6 sets of dies, so you can do all kinds of different sizes of beads or flanges, so you can roll different depths of flanges as well. Plus we have this bead roller. Now this is sold separate. We have these tipping dies, which are all kinds of different shapes. And this really expands the use. I got a couple samples here underneath. Like you'll be able to do, like it's how you're going to make like fender flares with a bead roller. Like shapes like you'd have in like a dash, like an old Corvette dash. That's just that bead roller that made that. There was nothing special with it. As well as, I bet that sounded good. My mic right there. You know, tunnels and just shapes like this. If you want to just have a more attractive shape to your, when you're using your bead roller, making your floor pans or seats or whatever. All right, so now drill some holes. So these are the holes for the Clecos.
Yeah, so as Randy mentioned, the Clecos that we're using are they're 1/8 inch holes, but when you use an 1/8 inch drill bit, when you drill the hole, it's never exactly 1/8 inch. It's probably slightly oversized. So by doing that, those Clecos fit like really nice. Yeah. They slide in really nice, but they if you have too much slop, like he had mentioned, if you run the next size up drill bit, you can have some slop in it. And also what can happen is these little ledges aren't strong enough to
almost pull back out.
Yeah, they'll actually pull back out. And I've had that before where a hole, it'll pop back out on you. You got to just drill a new Cleco hole. So I'm just going to drill 2 right here to begin with, and then, oops, you know what we're going to use?
Center punch out of our...
Yeah, so we use the automatic center punch.
Which comes in our sheet metal layout kit.
Yep. And against this.
Hey, move out a little bit. Are you hitting the clamp?
Well, we got a little bit of movement.
We need another clamp. Let me get a clamp for the center?
We'll be all right. We'll roll with it. It's live. Why not?
It's live, baby.
Let's see what happens.
I was waiting for you to go through and hit this, and we could watch Mark's drill bit.
Yeah,
break live on.
This is one of this is Mark's prized sharp drill bit we borrowed, so it went a little quicker.
Do you want do we want a clamp that goes out in the middle?
We may
got one.
May just put an extra Cleco out in the that lane.
I mean, do we want one for drilling for the Clecos?
Yeah, why not? We might as well throw it in. So I'll do this other hole. So you can see I put one just on that corner there, just to pull the corner together. Now, at this point, I can kind of pull this clamp off here because that Cleco's doing the job. And then again, the panel has a little bit of warping in it. Could have counteract that with pre-stretching, but we can probably pull it into shape here.
You have any questions, Scott? Oh.
I figured I'd wait till he was done drilling.
Randy can answer as well.
What gauge do you recommend for making floor pans?
The correct answer is what gauge to make floor pans out of. The probably correct answer is whatever your car came with. So if the vehicle used 18 gauge originally, use 18 gauge. Use as close as you can to what the car had originally. The kind of standard I would say is 18 gauge, but
It's a little heavier.
yeah. So but
Same with rockers.
Yeah.
Thing, a lot of times 18 gauge.
But again, it all depends on what you're working on. I mean, some of you guys that are, traditionally we've been a company that we speak to guys doing classic and antique cars. 18 gauge is pretty much the answer. Yeah. But we know we got a lot of you guys that are starting to mess with some newer stuff that came factory with 20 gauge on almost everything. Don't be afraid to use 20 gauge. You want to match it as close as you can is the answer. But start out with 18 gauge. That's pretty good. 16 gauge is probably a little too heavy, especially if you're rolling beads in it. Well, I'm going to add actually a few here to make sure we can pull it all together. So you guys can hear me. I usually like to do this where you work your way down the panel, pulling it together with the Clecos, since they are incredibly powerful for the what they look like. But we're pulling. You could start to see it's starting to pull this panel together. You could probably add another one there if we wanted to, but keep adding these. It'll pull it all nice and tight. The better it fits before we start welding, the better our panel's going to go as we weld it up. Probably get rid of this thing. I'll probably do another one there just so we got everything.
Now, if you've ever seen a lot of those builders and you look at their car and they have a bunch of the things sticking up all over them, that's what these are, basically. Yeah. They're holding, when they're making a car and they're putting all the panels together, this is a lot of times what they're using to hold them together. If you didn't see, where's the clamp at? We'll show, if anybody's just joining us, I'll show you how they work again. So you just put them in the clamp, and as you push up, you can see it gets narrow, and as you let down, and it'll catch right there. So it'll stay. Can we see that, or am I getting closer? Or are we too close? So it starts off like that. So you push it up, and it goes through, and you can see how it got narrower. Then when you let down, you get to about right there, and you see they'll stay wide. I got a piece. I'll be right back, Joe. So this is the sheet metal. Let me see here if I find a couple holes that are lined up. Okay. So I got a hole here. So I push it, and you'll see it go up through. And now when it comes, we're good. So you can see that's why you need that hole drilled to 1/8 of an inch. So that way they stay, because they stay wide and they catch. If it's bigger, they could pull back through. Just a little tip. But these things work great, and that's how you take them out.
So we got all the Clecos panel clamps in place here. And I guess we'll just turn this so Joe can see. So you can see it's pulled this seam pretty tight. We got a couple little spots there that as we work, we can either clamp or hammer, as we work down, make sure everything's flat.
So now do we take it back apart now and
Yep.
punch some holes?
Yeah, so we'll take it back apart, but this is a key step because if you need to take this in and out of your vehicle a few times to fit it, to make sure everything fits how you want, we know that once we get a few of these in place, it's always going to go back in the same exact way. So this is important. Put these in first, then we're going to take it apart and we're going to drill our spots, our holes, or actually we're going to punch them for our rosette or spot welds.
We have a couple
panel.
different versions. We've got, let me grab this jug in here. We've got the, basically look the same, the pneumatic perfect panel prep tool and a pneumatic flange punch tool. So this one here is to do a flange, basically like what we were just rolled. You just have to keep going over and over again. And then our perfect panel prep tool, we just came out with this. So if you want to see more about it, just go to eastwood.com, look up perfect panel prep tool. It's for welding, butt welding sheet metal together. It's going to put a 45-degree bevel on the edge of your sheet metal. So when you butt it up together, your weld's going to go into that bevel. So, but the key about both of them is that they both have a punch on this side. So there's a flange on one side and a punch on the other. And we're going to show you why that's so handy because, as you can see, you drill holes, you end up with the burrs coming out of the holes. You got to take a little grinder and go back and clean them up. But when you're punching,
so we'll just fit it in.
and we're just going to punch the one side because we're just going to do a plug weld.
Oop. Uh-oh.
On
Somebody
there.
turn our air off.
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
Somebody stole my air.
It doesn't. Let me get a check.
Uh-oh. We got shared space like all you guys, and wonder if somebody,
It says 110 pounds.
uh-oh. This is live. Oh no. Let's switch to this one. Maybe I didn't oil that one. I'm gonna call that my fault. Maybe it's user error. Yeah?
Uh-oh.
No.
It is live. So.
You gotta speak to it real nice. Didn't buy dinner ahead of time. It wasn't letting me get in. All right, so you like that one, Joe? All right, so aside from my mess up, probably that one probably need to be oiled. That might be a fresh one that we didn't even put any oil in the bottom of it. But as you can see, I went along to start with, and we can add more.
That is the way to do holes for this. Because first off, you did them all in the time it would take you to do one.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to clean up. And now we can just start welding.
Yeah, so I'm going to put the panel clamps back in this so we know we're back right where we want to be. Pliers here.
Jeez. Got some.
Clamp these together. Feel free to shoot us any questions if you have any, Scott. All right. Ooh.
And you're just going to weld this with the MIG 175.
Yep. So this panel, what I would do here to correct this right here is, it'll pull into place, but really what it needs is the shrinker right at the ends here, each of these spots. You can kind of shrink around to bring it back in and pull it tight. That is the way that we'll make this lay nice and flat. But what we're trying to show right now is just this seam. Of course, any of these projects take quite a while when you got to fix different things. You can either do it ahead of time or you can do it afterwards. So you can either wheel it ahead of time or you can shrink it afterwards to correct it. So I got this pulled pretty tight here. I got my handy old helmet and
Gas is on.
okay. So I already kind of dialed the welder in ahead of time, but if you guys are just, if you're starting out just doing sheet metal work, it's good to just get a piece of sheet metal ahead of time that's the same gauge as what you're working on, and just set your welder up to make sure that you got a nice, you got the machine dialed in exactly where you want it to be.
And the nice thing about the MIG 175, you're welding sheet metal, and it'll weld all the way up to 5/16. So if you're restoring a car, one welder pretty much do it all. Plus you can weld aluminum.
Yeah.
It comes with a spool gun. So it's probably why it's the one we go to the most.
Yeah.
When we're MIG welding.
This thing works great. All right, so I'm going to do some zaps here. We also offer a spot weld tip for this if you guys are just starting out, or if you're doing a ton of spot welds that are really good for this. Oh,
we got one sitting right here. So if you can.
But I'm just
It
gonna
has
zap
standoffs. Has those ears that are standoffs. So it'll keep you the right distance from the panel.
Since we got these nice punched holes, it's kind of a treat to weld this.
And the welder is all Tweco style consumables, so so you could put this, you could put like the spot weld tip nozzle he was talking about on another gun that has Tweco consumables, which is also another nice feature of the welder is that because it has standard common consumables, not only can you get everything right here at Eastwood, you can get the stuff at most welding supply stores.
So I just did a couple quick ones there to to put this together. So now if I got this welded, we don't need our Clecos anymore.
Oh, you got it?
Yep. So pull these guys out like this. And we do get the question quite often, what about the holes that you get drilled with the Clecos? So we've
got a few, if Joe can come in while so he took them out, so now we've got holes the whole way through. So we have, right here we've got, this is a magnetic copper backer. As you can see, it's been used a lot around here. Just got magnets on it, so if it's a hard to reach area, you can just attach the magnet and then and it gives you both hands free to weld. We also have these copper spoons, and they come in different shapes. So that's a flat one of the most common ones. There's a 90-degree for corners and hard to reach areas, and then we have this one here that has an arc, which is another one that's good for different areas. So it's going to allow you to get in as a backer, and they also act as a heat sink. Plus we have this one right here. That's a magnet, which we could maybe show you on one of them. So like say you're doing a floor pan and it's underneath, you can put this underneath, walk around the other side of the car, and the inside in your interior, and do your welds. And then you got the copper as a backer, and like I said, the bigger ones are a heat sink as well.
Yeah, so maybe I'll do
Yeah.
this one just to show you guys. So I got a couple holes.
Yeah. So the options are like you would take this, you find one of the holes, and you do that. And then you weld on the other side, or you put the magnet there, or like this one here it's pretty cool because
yeah, this one's nice because
it's a pretty strong magnet.
Yeah, it's a nice strong magnet. It has this little adjustment screw. I don't know if we have a file or
burr.
something. Yeah.
We do have files. Do you want a file or do you want a grinder?
Just like a slapping file or just a file in general. Again, like Randy was mentioning, when you drill the holes, it always leaves burrs. The nice thing about the punch is it doesn't leave those. So we have some burrs here. I want to make sure that I knock them down because this tool, the copper backers, they don't do very much if they can't contact the hole completely. Yeah, one of those should be fine. So we'll just.
Looking that up, do you know what's in that welder? Someone asked, what wire size are you running in there right now for the sheet?
Probably.
Probably 023 is traditionally, but
Whoa!
023 if
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of sheet metal work, 023 is probably the best. But sometimes we keep 030 in here because we do a lot of thick metal as well as thin.
This is actually 030.
Yeah, so these guys are doing a video on like 1/8" plate recently where they were
Yeah.
doing some welding. So they had the 030 in there. I mean, the machine is so easy to set up that I can dial it down and weld sheet metal no problem just by changing the dials around. We have a little chart in there.
And we also have a MIG 135 in
Yep.
here. So we have the 135 is what we're going to have the 023 wire in. And since this is a little bigger machine, we just keep it a little bigger so we can go back. We have the luxury of going back and forth. But like you said, you don't have any trouble with the.
No, the 030
30
works fine. But you know, 023, if you know you're doing a lot of sheet metal, you're in the middle of a project, just buy 023. It's going to be the best for sheet metal work.
And you can swap a spool in 5
yeah,
minutes or
yeah.
less.
So I'm just knocking these burrs off. So back to what we were showing here. So I'm going to put my little backer over top of my hole, and it's got this nice strong magnet. Now it's got this, the thing I like is it's got this cool little adjustment screw. So this will actually fit if your panel has a little bit of curve or contour to it. You can actually dial this screw down till it hits exactly where you want, which is cool. So if this panel had more of a crown to it, we could loosen this up and it could have a crown and only touch in the center there would be raised. But since this is flat, I just tighten this down till it's, you know, nice and tight there. I'm leaving this clamp on the end here because it was springing up a little bit on me. So I wanted the weld joint to be tight. You can see, well I could see, it's probably tough for you guys, but I could see the little copper backer right through there. So when you weld, the welding wire doesn't stick to the copper backer, so it'll kind of bounce off of it. And it also supports it so the weld doesn't fall through the center, and we can weld these holes up pretty quickly.
If you have any questions, don't forget Scott's over here. So he'll answer them or he'll throw them out to us. Questions about any of the products you see here. Again, we're here because the panel holding clamps, a lot of guys call them Clecos. They're our daily deal. So if you're watching this live, you go to Eastwood. Every day we have a daily deal, really good sale actually. And today it's on those. Uh-oh.
Right near the edge there, so it was wanting to eat that edge away a little bit. But the backer allowed it so that it didn't fall through. All we're running into is when I drilled these holes, they're really close to the edge, so they were wanting to burn away a little bit. But we can plug those holes up, grind it smooth, no big deal. But again, the nice thing was you don't need another person. This thing held right on like that because the magnet's nice and strong, so we can just loosen that guy up, pull it off. And I don't know if Joe, you can get in there, but that's the one I just filled. You can see because we got this backer here.
That's complete penetration.
Yeah, but it's not sagging through the bottom where we have to grind off ugly,
And it wasn't.
groups.
Yeah, and if you try to fill that, you're going to just burn it away and
Yep.
nibbling at it. And
So that's good. That that little tiny hole that doesn't really need any dressing at all, especially if we're doing floor pans.
it beats laying. Now you'd be laying on your back underneath your car,
Yeah.
trying to sand that down or finish the weld or whatever you got to do.
So yeah, we just got to, that's the one we did. We just got to do that through these few, and we could, we'd be smooth. But you can see the panels joined together. Everything's good. Like I said, this area that's warped in here, we could go in with the shrinker, shrink along these edges, pull it down flat. The thing would be ready to go and to put in your car. But I would make the panel bigger than we need it to be. So we'd probably be trimming off a bit of this anyways because the panel's bigger now than what we actually want to fit into the car. But that's one way to do it.
So should we go to the motorized?
Yeah, I think we'll do the
All
motorized bead roller.
Just out of the way.
While you're getting set up for that, Matt Kelly has asked if you ever use TIG welder while you're doing your sheet metal.
We got to repeat the question because he's not mic'd up today.
Oh, if you, so the question we had was, Kelly asked if I've ever used a TIG welder for doing sheet metal, and I actually prefer, for 99% of my work these days, using a TIG welder for sheet metal. It is a little bit cleaner of a weld. You can control the weld puddle a little better, and also you can hammer and dolly on a TIG weld and stretch the metal out, which you can't do as easily with a MIG welder. So yeah, I do it all the time. Floor pans though, like this, I would probably still go back to my MIG welder and do it just how we're doing it here, just because it's a little easier. It's a little quicker to fill, the plug weld with a MIG welder. So I'd probably go back to that for a floor pan. But if I'm doing a patch that's on a visible panel, I would definitely TIG weld.
Because you can, yeah, and you can use them. The floor pan is just the easy way for us to demonstrate them. I mean, you can use them all over the whole car.
Yeah, we did a video. I did a Model A that I put together last winter actually, and I think in the video when I did the floor pans and the trans tunnel, I probably had like 50 of these things holding the whole entire floor, the whole trans tunnel together, because I needed to take it all out to finish some pedals and fabrication underneath. So again, it was great because I could get everything in place, fit it, but if I needed to change anything, I could pull them out with just using those pliers, which was cool. So now we're going to do, I drew just a little shape here on this one. Again, we're going to get a little bit of warpage on this, which if this was, probably on this one, I would, because of the shape that is, I'd probably throw it in the English wheel and roll here, roll there, back and forth if I really wanted to save any finish work at the end. But I'm going to try and do this one. Sometimes on this thing I like to, so this bead roller, the power bead roller that we sell, you may have noticed already, we had wrenches and different things for just adjusting. This one's got a nice little crank here. All I have to do is just tighten it down. It's a little more friendly for one person to use.
Foot operated.
Yeah, it's got the little pedal. So
forward and reverse. This has a 24-inch throat too.
Yeah, you can do it.
So it's 7 inches deeper than that, which means you can do another 14-inch wide piece.
The other nice thing is I love this handle, because like we were talking about there, it's already set up to kind of count, because you know where this handle is, so we can just count from there. But since this one I'm doing kind of a continuous.
We'll find out how important I was too.
Yeah.
We'll find out how important the cranker handle guy is if this one doesn't turn out.
So I'm going to go.
Not to add any pressure here live.
Uh-oh. So this thing has a speed control. The cool thing with this pedal is we can go fast or slower. So in the corners, I would normally go slower. So when I get to this corner, I'm going to drop it down, and I'm still moving, but I'm going incredibly slow compared to when I get to the straight. I'm speeding up a little bit. So you can kind of on demand. So right before the corner, I slow down, spinning the panel, just following the line on the center, and then now I can speed up. And then as we get to the corner, I'm going to slow.
And as you can see, Matt started in the middle. Don't be tempted to start in a corner. It's really hard to line up a corner. He started over here in the middle of the panel, so that way it'll be easier when he comes around. He'll be able to line this up dead on perfectly.
Oh boy.
Without any problems.
Oh boy.
Scott's actually watching pretty intently over here.
He's trying to see.
Yeah, he's trying to see.
If I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
All right. That's all right. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, what's 5? 5. No.
Uh-oh.
6.
I'm going to have to start
6.
helping count soon. I thought I was going to have to start helping count soon.
So there, I actually did a half decent job there of my joint. I mean, it happens sometimes you get off. The key, like Randy was saying, is one nice thing is not doing it in the corner or doing it in the center here is if we come off of this corner, especially on a floor pan where, if you're not building the Riddler winner here, if you come off this corner and you're a little tiny bit wide, you can kind of bring it back in. Mainly what we're trying to do here is bring strength into the panel. So again, if this is a floor pan, it's getting covered with carpet in the end of the day. I'll allow it. You can come off that line a little bit. So starting in the center here, if you come off just a tiny bit, you can kind of adjust yourself and just get yourself back into that area. But you can see how quick it is to
You
do.
know, speaking of that, if people aren't familiar with
Yeah.
why you roll beads, it's not just for looks, it's for strength. So you can see
Yeah, this panel.
how easy that is, and then the one he has there, he can't even hardly make it move.
Yeah, so it has a little bow to it here, so I'll probably give it a
So
little.
it adds a lot of strength.
Give it a little body English here. Use the
Your English leg?
use my English leg, my patented. So, but this one you can see it didn't, doesn't have near as much warpage in this one just because of the design.
Do the other
shape.
one?
Yeah, we'll do this one and then we'll flange it. So, start in the center here. And go 1, 2, 3. So I usually go down till it just touches, and then I'll just do my final kind of adjustment. And we're going to go 4, 5, 6.
How do you make it out, Scott?
Great so far.
You got big holiday plans, Scott?
Not right now.
I guess I shouldn't be asking questions. You're not mic'd up. Nobody can hear you.
I know. I'm
Scott said he's all alone these holidays. I'm going to cross over here.
So I'm slowing down the corners. You can probably hear in the machine. And then when I get to the straights, I'm going to slow down. And then now we got to come around. Like there, I went probably a little bit wide actually. So I had to come back in. Bring it back in. So that was a good example. I went just a little bit I went out there. I didn't spin it quite quick enough there at the end. So I brought it back in. I mean, on this side you can see it. But again, if it's covered with carpet, no big deal. Or we can throw this in the trash, start over, and make another piece if you're building if you're really a perfectionist.
Now we'll swap these out for the flanging dies.
Swapping them out, Matt.
Yes.
One question I just got asked was about the big roundover die. If you can kind of show or talk about, what the use for it is in the forming die set.
The roundover die. Oh, okay. So the roundover die.
The question was,
Oh, yeah.
what are some of those dies for in the other set, I believe?
Specifically the roundover die.
Probably the big,
Yeah, because we
that.
have a round tipping die.
yeah.
That's the one that we're talking about here. So we have a round tipping die that you can use for. You can use these tools. Really, there's no rule book for what you can do with these. The cool thing about these forming dies, you can use them in any way you can imagine. So you can form something over an edge. You can use this on the top. You can use it on the bottom. You can use the flat. So there's a bunch of different ways, but the different radius in these pieces are going to vary how you can roll a panel over it. So you could couple this with one of our other dies.
Or
Yep.
even that.
Yeah, we have our soft wheel here that you can use. But a lot of times what I use this wheel for is you can use like one of the rounder. You can basically form the piece over this, whether it's on the bottom or it's on the top. Either way.
Which other?
But it doesn't particularly matter. I actually use the flat of this pretty often when I need to use it with one of the sharper wheels to put almost like an embossed line in it.
Like
You
we've
can
got,
do that.
because there are some fairly sharp ones.
Yeah, so we have the sharper one here. But this one, you could basically use this rolled edge for making a nice clean radius
And then
and
there's
something. Yeah, and then
another one, there's like an offset die.
yeah, so this is the offset die that we were talking about, the bed video, the truck bed video that we did a while ago. I used the prototype set of these, and we put a step in the bed that made it look like this factory stamping in an old 50s truck bed or something where it's stamped in, it's pressed in, but using these offset dies. But that's a good question. The round tipping die is just, it's another softer shape that you can use to roll the wheel, to roll your metal over. All right, so Randy threw the flange die in here. A little bit quicker on this particular tool because it's just these two big Allen keys in the end here, Allen sockets. Pull them off, slide the new ones on, tighten them down. There's no like little set screws. So this tool is a little quicker to use overall. There is a price difference, but if you work in your shop alone, you don't have anybody helping you very often like I commonly do, this is great. It's great to have because you don't need to beg your neighbor, wife, friend, mistress, whatever. So, yeah. All right. I'm going to try and eyeball this. Uh-oh.
Oh, hold on. I might have turned it off. No, oh, yeah, it's off.
All right.
Ooh.
Everything I touch breaks. All right. And we're looking on that side. Does that look like something?
Yeah, looks like a flange.
Cool.
It's not
Quite as deep on
Yeah.
this one. I can go, well here, why don't I run, I'll run it, well, this is a good.
It may end up being when we lay it in there.
So like I said, you can run this through multiple times. So I didn't want to go too tight on it and kind of stretch the metal here. So I was doing the same thing with this one where I just kind of had the dies touching. But it's a little hard to tell the tension with this handle because you have a little more leverage. I tend to over tighten it, so I'll run this through, just get my step made, and then there's nothing wrong with if it's not deep enough, we can run it through a second time now that we've already made this track for it to run in. So we got a little step there. Yeah, I think it's probably going to need to be a little tighter there.
Here's a test piece. It's close.
I'll run it through once, just a tiny bit tighter here. So again, I ran it through with almost no pressure. I'm going to go like that. And I already got to kind of have a groove started here so I can roll. All I'm doing is just running it through again, trying to follow the same basic step we made. Just I made it a tiny bit tighter. It was almost flush, but you don't want that extra material sticking up that we're going to have to grind off. So we're trying to make this offset, give us a flush finish when you're welding these pans in place. So we got a little more defined of a line there. So nothing wrong with that. If you're unsure, it's better to go a little, not quite as deep, because you can always go, you can always turn in another crank like that and feed it in. If you go too much, then you're just got to throw it away and start over. So shake it.
Oh yeah,
Cool.
that looks good.
So got our piece here, bead up. I'm going to clean my
We got some other design going on there.
We
That
were-
was our test design earlier today.
So the great brainstorming session this morning, we were trying to figure out a design that was not too difficult to do live, but not boring. Get all that junk off. That's off there. All right. So now we got same thing. We got a nice flush fit here, and we're going to clamp it. And we'll show you how to use these paddle clamps once again to position our piece in place.
While you're clamping that up, there's two more good questions.
Sure.
First one is Barnyard Grazer asked if you have a preference of which way you install the bead, facing up or facing down when you're making it forward.
So Barnyard Grazer wants to know if you have a preference whether the bead is up or down.
Just I mean, in the end of the day, it's just whatever looks right, I guess. I mean, a lot of times I'll look at what, was done from the factory and try and, even if I'm doing a custom floor pan, I'll kind of look at the factory floor pan and see if they had them, how they were. Obviously, if it's pressed down, you're not going to have that raised area. So depending how thick your carpet is on your vehicle, you could feel these raised areas in the floor pan. So a lot of times you'll put them down just so it's smooth, but at the end of the day, if you're building a custom, it's whatever looks cool.
The Camaro, what's left of the floor is both.
Oh, okay. So that one's up and
So
down.
it's sort of, yeah.
So
The
yeah, I
ones
mean,
up front are up.
if
That
you're-
one, the floor pan's not there anymore, so.
And you can also, if you're running something that doesn't have carpet, you can actually, this will give you a little bit of grip on your feet. It'll give you something to, if you're not running, I've seen some, these rat rods, they don't run anything, so.
The other one was on
Oh,
the
yeah.
metal one. Does the metal get pulled through the machine, or are you pushing it?
It is pulling it through the machine, so all I'm doing is simply, I'm just guiding it.
Well, the question was on
Oh,
this one. We
yes,
forgot. He's not
Yes,
mic'd up
my fault.
today. On this one, do you have to push it through or is it powered? Well, right, if Joe can see, there's a foot control here. Now with no metal, here, yeah. Thanks, Joe. Why don't you just direct me to here? It's getting late. No problem. Is this good for you, Joe? Is this good? All right. So if you push the pedal. And then it's speed control too. So as I let off, you can see, like Matt was saying earlier, around turns he was going really slow. So you can see you can get it down to where it basically almost doesn't even turn. And then I should have painted white stripes on them ahead of time so you could see it. Can you see that very well? Can you? Yeah. Because if not, I could put a marker on it or something.
And Matt, this is one. Use the hashtag, it's what, Eastwood Co? Or you gonna find him and put him on Facebook sometime?
So the question was, what's the hashtag for Eastwood? So if you follow along on social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or anything else, yeah, Eastwood, hashtag Eastwood CO. So Eastwood Co. We monitor that. We also, if you guys haven't been on the site recently, we started adding some of our favorite Eastwood Co. hashtag photos to the pages. So if you have a really good welding photo that you're proud of that you did with the Eastwood welder, hashtag it. If we like it, we're going to throw it up on the main welding page on Eastwood, so our main welding page, and you'll be on display for every customer that goes through. There's a little slider, and you can see everybody's welds in there. So yeah, and we also share posts to give people shout outs. So if you're proud of your work, hashtag it, and we'll send it to everybody else. Let's move in a little bit so you don't burn away like last time.
So what he's doing, he's just like what we did on the when we did the hand rolled floor pan, just drilling some holes to put the panel clamps in, the Clecos, and we're going to show you how they work here in a minute after he gets the holes drilled. And if you have any questions, we're answering them. Scott's answering them. Don't forget to share the video as well. And also, let us know what you want to see in these live videos, because we're trying a whole bunch of different concepts. And tomorrow at 3 o'clock, Matt's doing a MIG welding basics. So tomorrow at 3 Eastern time, if you want to, learn a little bit about MIG welding, if you're starting, you have any trouble, if you have any questions, just tune in, and Matt's going to give you some tips, tricks, give you some hints, maybe help you. If you have any questions, you'll be able to help them.
Yeah,
solve whatever, troubleshoot their problems.
Yeah, we'll answer questions live. Joe does a really great job. He's got a fancy little MacGyver lens set up that we put on over the camera, and we'll do some welding under hood so you guys can see what it looks like, how to move your hands. I'll talk you through every step of the way to help you guys kind of get jump started on doing nice MIG welds. So we'll do a little bit of heavy material as well as thinner stuff.
MIG 175 tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
MIG 175 tomorrow?
That's my go-to. I mean,
All
we
right.
could use either one, but I love the 175. Thing's awesome.
If you missed it earlier, we did a floor pan earlier using the hand crank bead roller you see right up here up front. We did this same, showed you how to do a floor pan, same concept, just using that bead roller. And Matt welded everything together with a 175. And it is the go-to because like he welded sheet metal. It'll go up to 5/16. So anything you got on your car, if you're boxing in your frame or anything like that, so you can weld your sheet metal, your patch panels, your floor pans, and then you'll be able to go and you'll be able to, do the work on your frame, weld any tabs, mounts, anything else you have. Plus you can weld aluminum. It comes with a spool gun, and that's like a $200 value right there. So if you're looking for something where you can also weld aluminum, MIG 175 is definitely the machine that you're going to want to check out. Plus, while he's drilling them holes, you can see it's on, I'll show you what the card it's on if Joe can get. It's on this, I'll give him a second here to get set up. It's on our Pro welding cart. As you can see, it's got our TIG 200 at the bottom. And if you're thinking about trying to TIG weld, that's the one you want to get. It is so easy to use. If you think TIG welding is difficult, you should try this. It's going to make your life a lot easier. And it holds a MIG on the top. And the reason this welding cart's pretty cool is because it can hold a bottle for both. So it can hold your bottle for MIG welding, and it can hold your bottle right here for TIG welding. Or if you've got our MIG and a plasma, and you're doing some aluminum, you're going to need two bottles. So you can put your bottle for welding steel here. You can put your bottle for aluminum here. Then down here on the bottom, you could put your VersaCut 60 plasma cutter or whatever. And it's big, so it'll hold. If for some reason you made a mistake and you bought a machine from another company, odds are this cart will hold that as well. But we can forgive you for that if you buy our welding cart maybe. And it holds 6 tubes of filler rods right here, and it's got the trays, it's got hooks, huge wheels and axle too. So all right, so now you've got them in. We should probably show how one of them goes in since I was off track.
Well, no, but I want to show you guys just how it fits nice in here. It was sitting a little high there, so I put the Clecos, the panel clamps in that spot, kind of pulls it down, helps us a little bit. So if we want to take them out,
that's probably a good angle if we can. Joe can we shoot down that, Joe, or like that, or is that not going to help? Can you get closer? Now I'm going to tell you what to do. This is how it works around here. Our camera guy tells the welders what to do. The welders tell the camera guys. That's close. Out and in. Are we good?
Beautiful.
Should we pull it out and put it in so you can see it?
Sure.
All right.
So there we got, you can see the panels flopping around there. So I can fit that back into the hole.
Pull it out.
Let it out, pulls it together, so it pulls the panel nice and tight together.
Because those little end of the ears that stick out, they don't pull back through.
Yep.
So it's a really cool design.
And this comes from the aircraft industry. This isn't something that we invented, but it's something that's been a kind of standard in the aircraft industry and has in recent times become, mandatory to use, not mandatory, but the go-to clamping system for doing automotive metal fab, sheet metal work, because they work so well.
And now, so he's taking them back off because we're going to punch holes so we can do some plug welds.
So I'm going to go in between these, add a handful of punches. All right. Let's see if I break a tool again. All right. This has a little stop in the back of it, so we can do is, as long as you push it up against the stop every time, you're going to get a nice, even
depth.
Yeah, the same depth the whole way along, which is nice. I like this because it's way quieter.
It's quieter and cleaner than a drill. That's our punch flange tool. We also sell it in a version called our Perfect Panel Prep tool. So that one there, it has it'll make a flange like we were doing on the car earlier, and on this side it punches the hole. So really handy tool, much quicker than drilling holes, and much cleaner because now there's no cleanup at all.
So now, like I mentioned earlier, the great thing about Clecos is it kind of makes you put the panel exactly in the position that you had it in before. So if we were mocking this up in a vehicle, we know that it's going to fit the same, you know, every time. Even if you throw them across the floor, they still work the same.
The kit comes with 10 of them. You also get these the side ones for just holding their edge clamps.
I should have used that earlier.
Yeah, we could use it. Yeah. So you actually get two of the edge clamps in the kit as well. And that's if you're watching us live today, that's our daily deal. So go to eastwood.com, check it out. If you're watching recorded, it's good. You know, check out, see what our daily deal is, because we got something cool every day.
So yeah, these are nice. Earlier it was a little more dramatic, but if you got an edge here where we don't want to drill a hole, we can put this in here, and it'll grab and clamp on the panel like that and pull it together, and it just works on the ends because I don't want to drill a hole right here on this corner, because if I try to weld that, it's just going to blow it away and make a mess. So by doing that, I can clamp it together and hold the panel nice. Now we can pull our welder out.
Back to the MIG 175.
Yeah.
So now we'll just plug. Now Matt's just going to plug weld the holes that he did with that the punch flange tool.
So I have the machine. If you have an Eastwood 175, we're running 030 wire in the machine. I currently have set. Now I set the machine to what I like. You'll find that the chart on the inside gets you close. Good call.
Somebody calls us out on that.
Gets you close, but you may need to adjust it from there. So I kind of dialed it into where I like it. I have it set at just over F, and the wire speed is at 4. And that's just what I liked. Yeah, I should have done a sweeper.
While he's getting ready, here, we'll show you Joe. We can, maybe not.
Oh, go
I'll
ahead.
say you could. Well, we'll do it afterwards. Yeah, we got the bead roller in the way.
We'll show you the settings we have on the machine then, just for you guys. So if you guys are just starting out doing sheet metal, if you're doing the same thing, doing plug welds, it's a good setting to get it at.
Now, a lot of times you would use 023 wire.
Yep.
But this has 030 in it because we were welding some heavier stuff the other day. So, and as you can see, there's no problem welding with that wire.
Uh-oh. So that's where I need to push down a little more. Need another Cleco there. I probably should have added a couple more Clecos because the panel's
Apart a little bit?
Yeah, it's apart. Those ones I gave up on because I was apart. So I usually add every like 3 inches or so. I'll add a 3 or 4 inches. I'll add a Cleco. So like right in here, we're great. You know, these two are pretty good. But some of those other ones out in the middle. All right. So I got 2 there. We probably need to clamp those a little better, but clamp this. I'll show you guys. I'll take all these clamps out here. So these things are, and sometimes if you guys are just starting out and you just have the first kit of these, we only have 10 or so of them, you can jump around on the panel. So we can drill all our holes, and I can, weld a few here where it's tight, and then I can move my panel
And keep moving
clamps
down.
and keep moving them down to squeeze everything together. So these 2 right here, I was having problems. Basically, I needed to have a Cleco right in the center there to hold that down. And
So-
instead of trying to booger it up, I just,
He was saying his settings were F4, so you can see them. Another nice thing about this welder, a lot of welders just have like 8 settings and 4. This, you can dial it. So if he was having a little bit too much heat on F, he could just actually crank it down part way to 4, you know, or adjust the wire speed. It's another nice little feature of the MIG 175. MIG 135 as well.
so all we need to do from here is just weld up these holes.
Should we do one of them just to
Yeah.
show everybody? So if you're just joining us, we did this earlier in our other floor pan. There's a few ways. So now where he pulled the Clecos out, there's a hole the whole way through. So to weld that can be a pain, especially if you're, say, in your car and you know you're going to end up with the weld sagging down through or the hole burning out. So we've got a bunch of different options here. We got these copper spoons. So all you do is this unscrews and you can put one of these others on, and they're just to match the shape of whatever you're working on. Plus they act as a heat sink. So you just hold it underneath the sheet metal at the hole and then weld from the top side. Now, like this, if this was actually a floor pan in the car, you might not be able to reach around and still weld. So we have these that have magnets, so you can just touch it. And this one here that I used last time, which is a magnet, and this one's adjustable. So if there's a little bit of curvature, you can adjust this right here and it's going to match it. So there's a bunch of options that are going to help you, you know, have nice welds when you've got a plug a through hole.
Yeah, this one's probably my favorite just because of, it's my new favorite. Because this one, it's got a nice strong magnet and you can adjust this so it kind of holds itself.
So it just backs up that hole. So now when you weld, your weld's hitting the copper as opposed to nothing, and you got to try to build up.
Yep.
Then you're going to end up with a nice flat. You're going to end up with a nice flat weld on the other. You don't really have to grind anything down,
Exactly.
which is nice if you don't have a lift and you're laying on your back underneath your car trying to grind welds.
All right, so we'll turn this guy back on. Open him up.
I keep unplugging your welder and walking away with ground clamps.
Uh-oh.
Oh, geez. Now make sure we get the right one.
We'll find out quickly. All right, so especially when you're doing spot welds like this, it's good to clip the end because there's always a little melted ball in the end of your wire each time, and it takes a little extra power to burn that off. So clip it off at the end. So, all right, I can turn that off. And you can see on the back side that's still sticking on there, so you know I didn't need an extra set of hands to hit that with the welder to weld up her hole, and you just work along as you go. And that probably needs another little zap there, but take this guy off. But I like tools like this that are really quick and easy to set up, put on, take off. Nothing real crazy here.
And it gives you both hands.
Yeah.
So you have both hands to weld, or, you know, not only if you can't reach it because it's on the other side of the car, it also gives you both hands.
So, like we were talking about earlier, the way we probably did it here would be more if it was you wanted the beads up in the vehicle. But if you wanted them the other way, we would have flanged this the other way, and it's sitting like this. But all depends what you're looking to do. But that's the basics. That gives us strength. We can put that in the car.
You can see where was the weld that was? Right here, right? Nice
Yeah.
and flat, the one that just went through, yeah. I don't know if you can really, but it's just a nice, you can see where he had the copper back to it, so. Anyways, well, any more questions, Scott?
I got two of them. One of them is for you to look at while you're at it. I'm not sure. That card, the diamond plate, is that steel or aluminum? You got two magnets right there, but you need a quick test.
I can't imagine that it's aluminum.
Right there, you got the big.
Dun dun dun.
Steel,
That one's steel.
or it's magnetic aluminum, one or the other.
The other question
New age.
is slightly unrelated to what you're doing, but Matt may be good with this, with all the fab stuff you do. Do you have any pro tip for cleaning mill scales with metal?
Randy can answer this one.
I didn't even pay attention. I quit paying attention when when he built you up. And
Oh, jeez. So the question was, any suggestions for getting mill scale off of something? Depending what it is, of course, but media blast is probably your quickest method. I mean, I've seen people use flap discs and stuff like that, but that just doesn't burn, you know.
It's a pain no matter what.
So media blasting is the quickest thing if you have a media blaster.
Does he want to do the whole, is he talking about like an angle iron or?
Not sure exactly. It didn't go specific.
Yeah, if it's something that's you know, if it's anything of any scale, yeah, you know, definitely want to media blast it because you don't want to sit there with a grinder trying to take
and
that.
then it's not, it's going to get all wavy
Yep.
or.
So yeah, that's the best bet. And now
If it's just the edge, if you're just trying to get rid of it, like is it maybe is he putting two heavy pieces together? You might be beveling the edge anyways to get a better weld.
right.
So so then you might use a grinder.
Well, just a note, because of that question, I hope don't use hot rolled steel when you're doing sheet metal work on automotive. You know, you don't want to use that. So I'm just thinking maybe he was asking that type of question because he might have been doing that. You know, generally on heavier stuff, you're going to come across that mill scale.
I didn't even think about him using it on sheet
Yeah,
metal.
but I'm just afraid that they
Yeah.
might be talking about the pickling that they do. So
Yeah.
you want to be using cold rolled steel when you're doing sheet metal thinner gauge stuff for sure. But media blasting is going to be best because I'm going to hope that you're using thicker metal where you can just media blast it all.
Well,
So cool.
I guess that's it. Thanks for joining us again. If you're just tuning in, you can go back. You can watch it recorded on Facebook and YouTube. We showed you how to make a floor pan using our hand crank bead roller, as well as our motorized bead roller, and then using copper backers, the Cleco panel holding clamps, MIG 175, the punch flange tool, and everything else. So should give you a pretty good idea on how to make your own floor pans. And when you do that, you save a lot of money because you invest in a few tools. It ends up being cheaper than buying all your floor pans. You know, they should fit because you made them yourself to your car.
Yep.
Because a lot of times you buy them, you still have to, do your own trimming. Plus you can brag to your friends and impress them with the fact that you actually made your own stuff. So, and tomorrow, if you're watching live tomorrow, Matt's got MIG welding basics at 3 o'clock Eastern time, so you can tune in, ask him some questions. He's going to give you some tips. And don't forget to visit eastwood.com for these panel holding clamps that we had. Now they're thrown all over the place. They're a daily deal if you're watching it recorded. So I guess that's about it.
Cool. Thanks,
All right.
guys. We appreciate you watching.
See you tomorrow.
Catch you later.